Arise News Channel, also the morning show right here on the Arise News Channel. It's time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Right, we'll have some stories coming in. Nigerians are to pay more for petrol with immediate effect. The ex-depot price is now 151.56 naira per litre from 138.62 naira in August. The regulation began in April on the heels of the crash in crude oil prices in the international market. Pump price of premium motor spirit PMS in April was reduced from 145 to about 125 naira per litre by the Petroleum Products Pricing and Regulatory Agency, PPRA. In May, the PPPRA announced a new pump price band between 121 to 123 naira per litre. In July, it went up to a band of 140 to 143 naira per litre. However, in August, there was a reduction to 138 naira 62 kobo. Petrol price? Have you bought petrol since then?
I had to buy this morning, and let me share my experience very quickly. Some brands are refusing to sell products this morning because when I asked what the problem was, because I felt maybe perhaps it was too early, but they were open, they were just not selling. And they told me the new price, because of the new price, we have not gotten orders to sell. So I'm wondering if the price hike came in news filtered yesterday and tonight, did you get new products that you are determining when you should start selling your products? And that's just some of the challenges we would have here in the protection of the consumers. All I can say is Nigerians need to brace up, because as long as we have the hike in prices in oil in the international markets, we will also be paying for higher prices here. As you would recall, and as you have just read, subsidy has been removed.
Dr. Abati, I've got two questions, please. I want you to clarify this. Have we deregulated fully? Because there's an argument of, have we deregulated fully? And some other people are saying, even if you want to look at the foreign oil price as a benchmark, then it should still be lower than this.
Well, you know, the way the PPPRA calculates it, what they've done since April is to say, well, there will be full deregulation of the downstream sector. There will be removal of fuel subsidy. And that removal of fuel subsidy is in line with the demands of the Bretton Woods institutions. You will recall that the World Bank, in not giving approval for the $1.5 billion loan that we have asked for, is also talking about this removal of fuel subsidy. The decision that was taken in April was that now it's market prices that will determine the price. What that means is that if the spot price of fuel goes up internationally, then automatically it will also go up here. You know, I just hope that the day will not come when, or rather it's inevitable, when the spot price of crude will go up to about $70. When that is passed on to a consumer, we're complaining now about 151 naira. It will be more than that.
Yes.
A day may come when we'll pay over 200 naira per litre at the petrol station. Now, but the concern of Nigerians is that, look, this is happening at a time when people are facing a lot of hardship as a result of COVID-19. And yet, at the same time, we find that government is increasing prices. We're paying more now for VAT. We've started paying more now for electricity tariffs, what they call service reflective tariffs, only for the people to wake up, you know, this morning to see that the pump price of petrol has also gone up. But the argument of government is that, look, these prices are determined by market forces. Now, the only thing about market forces, or the real danger with neoliberal capitalism, is that the market forces that drive neoliberalism do not seem to have a human face. It's just pure economics, and then that disturbs a lot of people, and that's why there's been a lot of outrage. But the point, of course, is that the notice was served long ago. Now, the PPPRA announced 151 naira 50 kobo per litre. But yesterday, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, then advised its members, the marketers, to sell at 162.
Yes.
You know, and the way they calculate the charges, the ex-depot price, there are other charges that are involved, you know, which then make it look like it goes much higher than the spot price of crude, because there will be landing charges, there will be all kinds of... The PPRA has a pricing template that is available on its website. And then the independent marketers are now saying they also bear costs. They have to buy diesel, they have to incur some costs, and then they must put a small profit margin. So that's why officially as depot it is 151. But when you go to the petrol station, you will pay a lot more. But it's a lot of hardship for Nigerians. Food inflation is up, VAT is up, electricity tariff is up, unemployment is up, inflation is 12.82%. How do we survive? So Afenifere has condemned it, Pandev has condemned it, but the APC says, well, he's doing his best. After all, there's no fuel scarcity.
Market forces. Okay. All right. That's about all we can take. The headline news. We'll take a short break now. When we return, the trio of Rotus, Michael Wilson and Aaron Akerjola, are here to give us updates on African global business and COVID-19. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. We're going to quickly be taking a quick story on the NBA. Northern lawyers from about 40 branches of the Nigerian Bar Association yesterday rejected the formation of the new Nigerian Bar Association and declared support for the One United Association. Following the withdrawal of a letter of invitation to Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai as a guest speaker at the just annual concluded General Conference of the NBA, a group of aggrieved Northern lawyers had last week announced the formation of a parallel group. But the lawyers from the Northern Zone stated that the NBA could not be polarized along ethno-religious lines and divides, and they urged Northern leaders and all legal practitioners in the country to rally around the new NBA leadership led by Olumide Akpata to ensure that the original aspirations of the body are realized. So, I think this is going to calm things down, you know, calming everybody down now.
Yeah, I remember the little boy.
The little boy, they calm down.
I think congratulations are in order for Mr. Olumide Akpata, the newly elected president. He's making the right steps in the right direction to unite the association and preserve it, you know, as the one indivisible body association. This was led by two senior advocates of Nigeria and 40 branch chairmen from the northern region. But, you know, a lot of lawyers have criticized the formation of that new faction. They have said they can only try to garner attention, but they will never be recognized. And I think that the problem here, wherever you look, our professional bodies, we're beginning to see activists, a lot of activism, you know, and you wonder in whose interest, whether it's the medical association, where we cannot even hold, you know, elections properly, or in the Nigerian Bar Association, where you see people are aggrieved because an invitation was withdrawn. I think there's a problem we need to look at critically. We are beginning to see unhealthy divisions along those lines, you know, religious, ethnic lines. That is something we need to check.
Polarized Nigeria.
Well, rather than say congratulations, let me say let's commend the two lawyers who are leading this process, the two SANs, and which includes Kura, the chairman of the Arewa Lawyers Forum. And I believe that the two SANs who met with Olumide Akpata, the new president of the NBA, and other members of the EXCO, they mean very well. And their objective is to ensure that there is unity within the bar. Because ahead of the annual general conference that was held August 25 to 27, there was first the issue of the election, which led to the emergence of Olumide Akpata as president of the NBA. Then, of course, for that conference, as has been pointed out, there were issues about the invitation that was withdrawn, the invitation extended to the governor of Kaduna State. And although that conference was well attended, notably some branches from the north stayed away. The NBA Kaduna, the NBA Bauchi, and it was after that, subsequently, that you now have this new Nigerian Bar Association that emerged, led again by two lawyers. And the thing to do is to go back to the point by Kura and the other SAN, that, look, one, they want an all-inclusive NBA. They want unity within the bar. And you recall that we had said that Olumide's first assignment, Olumide Akpata's first assignment, should be how to ensure that the bar is united. And in that regard, I think that it's not just enough to say some other lawyers from 40 branches. Nationwide, there are 125 branches of the NBA. It's to address some of those grievances that led to this attempt to form a parallel NBA. One, some northern lawyers, and I don't think they should just be dismissed, are saying that the NBA, the way it is managed, does not respect the heterogeneity of its membership profile. That two, there is lopsidedness in terms of how positions are given out. That the northern lawyers, the northern bloc, tends to be marginalized within the affairs of the NBA. Three, they are saying that, look, under Section 40 of the Constitution, they are entitled to freedom of association, and they cannot be restricted by Section 1 of the Legal Practitioners Act. So they have grievances that should also be looked into. And I think that the senior northern lawyers should also meet with these aggrieved lawyers who want to break away. And at the end of the day, a unified bar will be better positioned to achieve the objectives of Olumide Akpata as president, because he's saying, look, he's going to strengthen the NBA as a group in civil society. And, the NBA will become, under his watch, a platform for defending the interests of Nigerians. And I think that this morning, Abimbola Adelakun, on the back page of Punch, in an article on the matter, New NBA and the Lost Power of Unions, she tried to draw attention to some of the contradictions, not just within the NBA, but also within unions. And one strong point is the need for many of these professional associations to stay away from politics that may have a partisan coloration, because all of this started when invitation was extended to a major political figure who became controversial.
Yes.
One of the grievances of some of the northern lawyers is that, look, the invitation to Governor Rufai was withdrawn, but the invitation to the Southerners, who also became controversial, was not withdrawn. So these are the issues, but I hope that going forward, the NBA will be able to put its house together, and many of the issues that the Akpata administration wants to address, there will be a good atmosphere of cordiality and cooperation to be able to address those issues.
But let me just ask Dr. But if we still have time. There are those who argue that, the division of the Nigerian Bar Association is not necessarily the division of the bar. And so this is just an association that anyone can register. There's no law saying you have to be a member of this association. Why is this so critical to have a united Nigerian Bar Association? Okay,
the point is like this. Look, you have this association, it's a professional association.
Yes.
It's like NMA, it's like any other professional association, which, of course, in its golden years, was a major platform for indeed promoting the rule of law, human rights, and a forum where lawyers can develop, share ideas, and knowledge professionally. But it is not mandatory. There are many lawyers who are not members of the NBA, who are not even members of anything. There are some who will probably just be members of the Arewa Lawyers Forum, or they will be Christian Lawyers Association, they will be a member at that level, or there is even a Lawyers for Christ Association. So there is all of that. But what is important is that as a major platform, the whole idea of the association will be for there to be unity. I mean, one of the issues is this discord, if I may use that phrase advisedly, between the inner bar and the outer bar, which played out in the election that produced Akpata. But as a major platform in civil society, which has shown great potential in the past, we would like to see it unified. But nobody forces you to join the NBA. But what they don't want is for a parallel one to emerge.
I mean, noted, like you said, the operative word here is an association, and they are coming together. In fact, I think we need to check that in the Oxford Dictionary.
I don't know, you use the Oxford.
So that you don't have a mortgagee and mortgagor situation.
The Venerable Rotus Odiri is here to give us Africa's business update. Over to you, Rotus. Should we check your name in the dictionary?
Hey, it's accurate. It's accurate. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Adesua.
Good morning.
I think I heard you folks talking about fuel already. So we yesterday on the Global Business Report, I think the 3 p.m. segment, we broke this internal memo from the Petroleum Products Marketing Company, internal memo from their Ibadan depot to all stakeholders, and then from the lead sales Ibadan depot saying that please be informed that a new product price adjustment has been effected on our platform, and to this end, the price there was at 151 per litre. So this was just yesterday. So this morning, I shot this video this morning on my way to the island, and there it is, 161 already. That's at Northwest, which is at VGC. So you can already see some fuel stations haven't wasted any time in already affecting the price. The Mobil at Jaconde, that's at 159. Others are still at 148, but it shouldn't be long before we see the 161 price, across the country. Of course, there's a pass-through effect on inflation, which, is going to filter its way down to pretty much transportation, food, everywhere else. You're going to see that. Although it's early September, so we're waiting for inflation figures for August. We probably won't see this effect until October, when we get inflation figures for September, when this actually filters through. Next up is Aminu Gwadabi, the president of ABCON, which is the Association of Bureau Discharge Operators of Nigeria. He was at a webinar. The webinar was talking about the, kicking off sales from CBN over to the BDCs, and he was talking about the price of the fixed rates at which the CBN wants them to sell foreign exchange. CBN is selling to them at 384. They are supposed to sell at 386. He says here, the challenge we're facing is the smaller margin. Parallel market is doing about 430 naira per dollar, and our pegged rate is 386 to the dollar. So we still see a gap between the advised exchange rate of 386 by the CBN and what is obtainable presently in the market. The current margin cannot cover our cost of operations. We're asking the CBN to please review it. Not really sure what his cost of operations is, but remember, the stance of the CBN is that the parallel market, the demand there isn't what should be considered to be accurate. So it's interesting that Mr. Gwadabi came out with these comments, and it'd be interesting to see whether the CBN just ignores him or actually responds to what he's said. On the matter of tariffs, I remember hearing Dr. Adesowa talking about increase in tariffs this week, increase in fuel prices, and so on. EMRC, let's take a look at a letter that they put out, a commentary. They are consultants and advisors in the energy markets on regulation and transaction advisory. So they provided a commentary on the recent order from the CBN that deposit money banks, the DMBs, should lead the ring fencing of electricity market collections. Essentially, that money that is supposed to be remitted from the discos, over to NBET, who now send it off to the GENCOs, that should be ring fenced in an account controlled by the deposit money banks who have exposure to the discos. So if you take a look at a summary, let's move on to the summary that they have here. They essentially said that the order from the CBN is part of the NECI, of course, the Nigerian electricity supply industry, the NECI mechanism needed for payment discipline. So that the letter, goes in that direction, that a proper discipline mechanism is needed or rather, a proper mechanism for payment discipline is needed because of the illiquidity in the chain. However, they said the CBN authorization for DMBs to ring fence the payments from discos, it takes things too far. They said that discos are essentially left with no cash to save costs, because you're essentially just collecting everything from them and then putting it into one particular account. So it takes away from financial control from core investors, and they listed 4 points. One of them was that exchange rate tariff shortfall needs to be addressed. That is the exchange rate. Remember when we were looking at the tariff, the MYTO, multi-year tariff order, there were indices that were used, exchange rates, inflation, and so on and so forth. So they said that needs to be reviewed because it's not cost reflective. So let's move it to another quote that was in the report. I thought this was very interesting and pretty strongly worded. They said it is imperative that discos conclude negotiations on the 4 points above that they just mentioned with the Electricity Regulatory Commission and the Bureau of Public Enterprises before acquiescing to any demands from an external non-sector regulatory agency or the banks. Then they said this will put discos in a better position to negotiate future performance and so on and so forth. But they're essentially saying, look, NERC and the BPE are the two parties that should be sorting this out. Then further down in that letter, they now put what the CBN is asking for versus some of the regulations that NERC already has. So, and I think Dr. asked about this yesterday towards the tail end of our segment. We're looking at pushback on behalf of the discos, because another point they made is that, look, you are overriding private sector operations. These are private sector folks. They are investors. They should be allowed to make collections collect collections, give it over to NBET. You can't come in and I'll take this over from them. But then on the other side of the argument is that the discos, have to be said, haven't been very forthcoming with regards to what's being remitted over to NBET and then on to the GENCO. So, and there's also the fact that the federal government has been subsidizing the difference in cost-reflective tariffs and what's being paid prior. So they want to ease their way out of that arrangement. So it's a very fascinating debate that's going on between the discos and the CBN with regards to this new regulation that they've put forward. And then Garba Shehu, senior special assistant to the president on media. He put out a press release yesterday saying that President Buhari is very worried about rising food prices and that strategic reserves, grain, I think about 3,000 tons or so has been released. So it's interesting that when he put that press release out, this came out. I got my hands on this. Is from the 6th of August. This is from last month. But it's basically an order from the, okay, let me read this here. It says importation of maize and corn into the country. Directed to the above subject matter in line with government policy on food security, sufficiency, and striking a balance between food imports and local production capacities to meet anticipated shortfall, Central Bank of Nigeria has granted approval for the underlisted companies to import maize in quantity stated above. So they list 4, or rather 3 companies. Wakot is listed twice. Chi, Crown Farm. Okay, no, sorry, 4. It is 4. Wakot, Chi, Crown, and Premier Feeds. And also, it says the note approval is strictly for the 4 companies listed above and stemmed in the months of August, September, October. So remember, the central bank did put out a circular saying that Form M for maize imports would be discontinued. Now, you can still import maize if you want. You just can't approach the CBN window and get it at a lower rate. You're going to have to source it at the parallel market, which is going to significantly raise your cost. So I just thought it was an interesting coincidence that was floated around the moment Garbashe, who said that President Buhari is worried about the food situation. Inflation for food is at 15.4%. And with what's happened now with fuel, you're going to probably see that rise. So exceptions were made for those 4 companies. And then finally, for Doctor's question yesterday on the U.S. stock exchange, why that's appreciating versus the Nigerian stock exchange, Jerome Powell is the reason why the U.S. stock exchange has been appreciating, because of the Federal Reserve and their quantitative easing and all the stimulus that's being pumped into the market. Meanwhile, the Nigerian stock exchange, there's liquidity issues, of course, with FPIs and not being able to repatriate their funds, and that's been tempering down how much funds have been coming into the market for investment. That's
in fact, just to corroborate that, Rotus, there was a period, I think it was about last month, that no foreign investor put money in the market. Yeah,
if you look at the capital importation report for Q2, I mean, the funds, it's in the hundreds of millions, I think about 200-300 million is what came in for FDI. So the funds have been petering downwards as far as what's been coming into the market.
And it's just been crazy. I want to specifically talk about, food inflation, Rotus, because COVID played a major role in this. Logistical chains were broken, not only here and around the world. The floods too came in other parts. Despite the fact that I said, okay, people should go back to the farms, the floods too came in. In fact, there was a story in the National Daily this morning that was talking about the floods affecting rice, sorghum, maize, and the likes. And we sort of like have a maize crisis in the world. And food inflation is standing up. So when we add the report of the inflation in fuel price now, that will further put the pressure on the logistical chain, then food pressure will wrap up. I mean, there are many solutions to this. Somebody is thinking about, when will rail get steady? When will rail get on stream? In the 50s, 60s in this country, rail used to be an important logistical, part of food. But we don't have that today. You still go on the roads are not in great shape. And that is very scary. That is very scary. I don't know what you have to say about that.
I mean, but to the federal government's credit, there's been rail. This was the debate over the loans from China. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amici, he's made announcements as far as the different rail lines from one part of the country to the next. They're not moving as fast as we'd like, but the government is doing what it can to get rail going. But your point is well made. I mean, that's, you can't put all this pressure or all this on the roads. Every day I come into work, in fact, I filmed another accident this morning. There's always something on the roads that's delaying people, causing bottlenecks and so on. So the point is well made as far as rail is concerned.
Well, Rotu, still on food inflation, I mean, one of the major policy issues for this administration has been food security. Part of the reason why land borders were shut down in August 2019. And for some period, between that period and January 2020, that was being pointed out as a major achievement for the administration. But we now have COVID-19, which has become a problem. Such a big problem that, in fact, agricultural imports, if we look at our total import-export profile, we seem to be importing more, including food items, and we seem to be exporting less. Yes, okay, COVID-19 has disrupted many things. But what has brought this up is the statement by Garuba Shehu, as you referred to, which is the flood that occurred in Kebbi, affecting about 450,000 hectares of arable land. And because of that, we're told that, the farmers around that place could lose up to about 5 billion And that's a big problem. But what do we do? I think the government will need to come to the rescue of the affected people within that belt by getting, grains from the National Strategic Grains Reserve. And also by taking additional steps to make sure that, well, we may not have the bumper harvest that we were expecting, but that at least we don't have this food inflation causing other social economic crisis for us.
Right. All right, thank you so much, Rotus. Michael Wilson, over to you this morning. Any food crisis in the UK? Obviously not.
Well, interesting you should say that. I think that food security is a massive issue, and I think the world is suffering from a grain shortage right now. We certainly are here, and so that's pushing up the price of bread. Now, bread's not, they call it a staple. I mean, some people eat, some people don't. It's not necessary for our livelihoods in the same way I suspect it's for many other countries, but you make a good point. I think food security is very important. They do say, don't they, that the future wars are going to be fought over water apart from anything else, but again, I'm not going to lecture you about that. Let's have a look at global markets. In China, services PMIs roaring ahead for the fourth month in a row. The more I speak to people in that particular region, the more the feeling is that Asia will be taking us out of the pandemic one way or the other. It'll be fairly uneven, though. Japan's Nikkei share average, a 6-month high, reached, that's the highest it's been for 3 decades in dollar terms. There are big hopes there, according to its finance minister at least, the hopes of more global and domestic economic stimulus will arrive. Let me recap the United States for you. S&P 500 closed higher for the 9th time in the past 10 sessions. Defensive and value stocks now. And you remember I was talking about this yesterday. It's changing from the buy anything thing to perhaps buying a bit more sensible. I think people are getting slightly worried in front of the election about things. And the US private payrolls yesterday expanded, but at a much, much slower pace than expected. Indexes gained steam and hit session highs in the final hour of trading. So defensive utilities, by that I mean consumer staples, property or real estate, if you like, which have trailed the broader market this year. And those are quite health stocks also up 2%. So you can see financials also, the value sector, which has been declining because of the way interest rates have been going, that underperformed. That closed up 1.5% yesterday. The Fed's beige book, again, it sounds very technical. What it is, it's a kind of encyclopedia of what's going on as far as businesses are concerned in the United States, and then an increase in employment in business over August, although economic growth remains sluggish in parts of the country. Also, a bit of an increase in sentiment. Yes, this stimulus program we keep banging on about. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat Speaker of the House, saying that there's still serious differences between both sides, but at least there is talk about talk. So you have to hold on to little things there. As far as the UK and Europe's concerned, London's FTSE fell to its lowest level in more than 3 months. The index lost its notched its strongest August in 6 years. But we did have that public holiday, and there felt to be a bit of a hangover from there. Broader European markets also sort of dropped yesterday. We've had a warning now. We woke up to a very depressing warning from the Prime Minister here, Boris Johnson, saying, I think it's something that we know, that the economic reality is actually worsening. Interesting that politicians are actually saying that right now. We are not on the way back to work. These pictures you're seeing right now of people, this is obviously pre-pandemic views of street life. It is nothing like that now, and people are worried about getting on trains, they're worried about going to crowded offices and so on. And a lot of small businesses, particularly restaurants and retail chains, have been lobbying the government to try to get a big campaign going, say, the UK is safe and all the rest of it. Well, until people start going back to work, that is just simply not going to happen. Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, said that the economic reality is worsening. I have to say that when you speak to market traders, talking to some in Singapore this morning, and they're saying, don't see what the fuss is about. Now is the time for governments to borrow. It's never going to be cheaper, and now is not not the time to raise taxes. We may, of course, face that because it's a very easy thing to do. But you don't start raising serious money unless you mess around with the big ones like income tax and VAT and so on. And whether we're going to see that, I just do not know. Commodities. Now, gold, actually, well, the fast money flew out of gold yesterday, but the exit door, as my market commentator put it, was a little cramped. So gold actually fell almost 2% actually yesterday to $1943 an ounce. It's got quite strong support at about 1900, and a failure to 1900 would actually bring it down to about 1860. That's the feeling at the moment, if you're interested in those kind of numbers. And obviously gold's next direction will be directed by New York when that opens in a few hours. Time, oil markets, a torrid time really. Massive drawdown overnight in the United States. Completely disregarded by traders who just thought it's time to move out for a little while. Brent crude down, WTI down too, and unchanged in Asian trading. Again, we'll see what happens in the United States. So coming up today, finally, what we're going to get is major economies of Europe get their service PMIs starting almost right now. We get Eurozone retail sales, US jobless claims this afternoon, the weekly ones expected to be 950,000. The previous one was about 1 million, and the continuing claims should fall from 14 million to 14.53. From 14.53 million to 14 million, and we get those at 1:30. And we also get US services PMI report published at 2:45 our time. That's your global view.
Well, Michael, just very quickly, France is introducing a 100 billion euro stimulus to be used for what President Macron calls France relaunch, fiscal reboot. Now, is this more about the economy or President Macron's own political interests, considering that he will be seeking re-election in 2022? And how feasible is this, considering that France has a huge debt burden and may even be looking towards the EU to borrow more?
France is, without sort of appearing to lecture about it, it's a huge country. It has agriculture, it has natural resources, it also has a very, very strong manufacturing base, and it's also got a big tradition of looking after its workers. It has sclerotic labour relations, which is true. Macron has tried to change that and has failed completely. You do not mess around with the French worker. They will go on strike. They burn tyres in the middle of the road and all that kind of thing. You do not mess with them as far as fish is concerned, and you do not mess with their agricultural sector. That said, I feel as though the tourism industry, which is huge for them, is suffering. Paris is was the most visited place in the world before the COVID-19 pandemic. That's not happening now. So Macron has got to be very, very careful. He tried to put his arm around the workers and they laughed at him, as they would, because he's a politician. And they understand it. There is a deep-seated distrust of politicians in France. In fact, there's a deep-seated distrust of most people from France.
I can imagine. Thank you so much, Michael Wilson. All right, thank you so much, Michael. And that committee is to be headed by Francois Bayrou, a centralist.